Today, I want to talk about something we all face, our feelings. We all know how powerful they can be. Sometimes they feel like the loudest voice in the room. They tell us what to do, how to react, and what to believe about ourselves. And I get it. Sometimes our feelings are loud and intense. They come in like a wave, crashing over us with force, demanding attention. But here's what I want you to hear today. You don't have to let them drive the ship. Emotions are something we all experience on a daily basis, and in many ways, they shape how we move through the world. They can be powerful, overwhelming, and at times incredibly convincing. We're taught to listen to our feelings, to follow them, to trust them. They are often seen as a guide to help us navigate life. But here's the thing, emotions are not always reliable. They are valid, they are real, and they serve a purpose, but they don't always reflect the full picture of what is best for us. The first thing we need to understand is that emotions are not inherently bad, but neither are they inherently good. They simply are. Our feelings are not our enemy. They are signals. They tell us when something is off, when we feel joy, when we feel fear, when we feel sadness. They show us what matters to us, what we value, and where we are in our emotional landscape. But what happens when we make the mistake of letting these emotions guide every action we take? What happens when we follow our feelings without questioning them? We might find ourselves reacting impulsively, making decisions based on fleeting emotions rather than grounded, intentional choices. The truth is, we all have moments where our emotions feel like the loudest voice in the room. Think about those times when fear grips you tightly, when anxiety fills your chest, or when sadness overwhelms your heart. It's easy to let those feelings dictate what happens next. But here's the key. Just because a feeling is strong doesn't mean it should be the one to lead us. The danger lies in giving those emotions too much power, in allowing them to control us in ways that don't align with our values, goals, or long-term well-being. Emotions can sometimes cloud our judgment, leading us to act impulsively or out of fear. For example, when we're scared, our first instinct may be to retreat, to avoid discomfort, to pull away from situations that challenge us. Fear can tell us that something is dangerous when in reality it's just unfamiliar or uncomfortable. Similarly, sadness can convince us to give up, to stop trying, to isolate ourselves because it feels overwhelming. These feelings are temporary, yet they can have long-lasting effects if we let them rule our decisions. If we make choices solely based on our emotions, we may miss out on opportunities for growth or personal development. So how do we navigate this? How do we acknowledge our emotions without letting them hijack our choices? The answer lies in emotional awareness. We don't need to suppress our feelings, deny them, or push them aside. Instead, we need to acknowledge them as valid signals that tell us something about what we're experiencing, but we can choose not to let those emotions dictate our every move. It's about developing the capacity to separate what we're feeling from what we're choosing to do. Being emotionally aware means understanding that feelings are not permanent, they don't define us, and they don't have to dictate our behavior. They are temporary responses to what's going on around us or within us. And it's important to remind ourselves that we are more than our feelings. We are capable of responding to our emotions in ways that align with our values and our long-term goals. It's not about denying what we feel. It's about choosing how we respond. To live a life that aligns with who we truly are, we need to understand that our emotions are just one part of the equation. Our values, our purpose, and our dreams are just as important. When we allow our emotions to be the sole factor in decision making, we are neglecting the bigger picture. We must make room for those moments of emotional intensity, but we must also recognize that they do not define our next steps. So while emotions are real, we must learn to differentiate between reacting to them blindly and responding with intention. It's not easy and it takes practice, but it's the key to living a life that is in alignment with our true selves. We don't have to let our emotions control the narrative. We can be aware of them, honor them, and still choose to move forward in a way that serves us, that serves our purpose, and that ultimately brings us closer to the people we want to be. In the end, emotions are not the enemy. They are our teachers. But we must learn not to let them dictate the story. When we embrace the power of emotional awareness, we can navigate through life with intention, purpose, and a deep sense of self-understanding. And that's where real growth happens. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. Many of us grow up being told that vulnerability is a weakness, something we should hide or avoid. We are taught to be tough, to be stoic, to push through challenges without showing any signs of struggle. But here's the thing, vulnerability is not about being weak. It's about being courageous enough to face discomfort and uncertainty, to put yourself out there even when you're unsure of the outcome. Vulnerability is the birthplace of courage, and it's where real growth happens. The very act of being vulnerable, of opening up, of showing up when it's hard is a testament to strength, not weakness. So how does vulnerability tie into the idea of ignoring your feelings? The truth is, vulnerability is not about letting your emotions dictate every action you take. It's about embracing the discomfort that comes with not always having the answers, with not always knowing exactly what will happen next and choosing to move forward anyway. When you're vulnerable, you acknowledge that you might not be in control of everything, and that's okay. You acknowledge that the feelings of fear, doubt, or uncertainty may show up, but you don't let them keep you from stepping into what matters most. In fact, vulnerability often comes alongside some of the most difficult emotions we experience. When we feel afraid, we may hesitate to speak our truth. When we feel overwhelmed, we may shrink back from the challenges we know are ahead of us. But vulnerability says, even though I feel scared, I will show up. Even though I feel uncertain, I will act. Vulnerability allows us to lean into discomfort, to embrace the unknown, and still make choices that align with our values and our vision for our lives. There's something incredibly powerful about choosing to be vulnerable in the face of strong emotions. When you choose vulnerability, you're not denying your feelings, but you're not letting them control you either. You're acknowledging them and still choosing to step forward. It's an act of bravery to look at your fear, your doubt, or your sadness and say, I see you, but you do not get to make the decisions for me. I will keep moving forward. Vulnerability is not about running away from your feelings. It's about being willing to face them and not let them hold you back from pursuing what matters most. And let's be clear about something, vulnerability is not the same as passivity. It's not about letting your emotions take over and waiting for life to happen to you. Vulnerability is an active choice. It's about being present with your emotions and choosing to act with intention, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about showing up to your own life, even when you don't have all the answers, even when the road ahead is uncertain. It's about saying, I'm willing to be seen, to take risks, and to step outside of my comfort zone. When we choose vulnerability, we're also choosing to be honest with ourselves. We're acknowledging that we are imperfect, that we will make mistakes, and that we don't have everything figured out. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay, it's human. Vulnerability is an invitation to embrace our humanity, to acknowledge that we are all just trying to figure it out. And that's what makes us connect with one another. Choosing vulnerability doesn't mean that we're constantly in a state of emotional turmoil or that we have to bare our souls to the world at every moment. It's not about oversharing or exposing ourselves in unhealthy ways. It's about being honest, authentic, and real with ourselves and others. It's about letting go of the need for perfection and giving ourselves permission to show up as we are with all our flaws, doubts, and imperfections. In moments when we're faced with strong emotions, fear, sadness, anxiety, vulnerability allows us to choose our response rather than being driven by the emotion itself. It's about recognizing that emotions may be loud, but they don't have to dictate our actions. Vulnerability is not about giving in to every feeling, but rather about finding the courage to act in spite of them. It's about embracing the discomfort and uncertainty that comes with stepping into the unknown and doing so with grace and authenticity. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we also open ourselves up to deeper connections with others. We create space for empathy, understanding, and support. Vulnerability is the bridge that allows us to connect with one another on a deeper level. When we share our struggles, our fears, and our challenges, we invite others to do the same. And in that shared vulnerability, we find strength, compassion, and the courage to keep going, even when it's hard. Ultimately, vulnerability is not something we should fear. It's something we should embrace. It's the path to resilience, to growth, and to meaningful connection. When we choose vulnerability, we choose to show up, to be seen, and to live authentically, even in the face of fear. So the next time you feel vulnerable, remember it's not weakness, it's your courage showing up, even in the face of discomfort. And that courage will carry you through one brave step at a time. Courage over comfort is one of the most powerful principles we can live by, but it's also one of the most challenging. We all seek comfort, and for good reason. It feels safe. Comfort is the easy path. It's predictable, familiar, and reassuring, but while comfort might feel good in the short term, it doesn't lead to growth or transformation. In fact, staying in our comfort zones for too long can keep us stuck, prevent us from reaching our potential, and even rob us of the opportunity to become the best versions of ourselves. The truth is, nothing extraordinary happens in our comfort zones. Growth, progress, and change all require stepping out into the unknown, embracing discomfort, and making choices that are aligned with our purpose, even when we feel uncertain. When we let our feelings control our decisions, it's easy to default to the comfortable path, the one that feels safe, predictable, and free of risk. Fear, doubt, and anxiety may arise, and in those moments, it's tempting to pull back to avoid the discomfort of growth. It's natural to want to stay in the place where we feel protected, where things are familiar. But comfort can be a trap. It can hold us back from the very experiences that will help us grow, stretch, and become who we are meant to be. In order to break free from this cycle, we need to embrace courage, the kind of courage that calls us to move forward, even when the path is unclear and even when we don't feel ready. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's not about having no doubt or no hesitation. Courage is about feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and deciding to act anyway. It's about recognizing that fear is a natural response to uncertainty and that it doesn't have to stop us. When we embrace courage over comfort, we stop allowing our emotions to dictate our choices. Instead, we make decisions based on what matters most, on our values, our purpose, and our long-term goals. Courage means choosing the path that feels right in our hearts, even when it feels hard, even when it challenges everything we've known before. Stepping into courage means facing those uncomfortable emotions head-on and using them as fuel rather than letting them control us. We don't need to eliminate fear in order to move forward. We just need to stop letting it dictate our every move. When we act despite fear, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we realize. We demonstrate that we have the inner strength to step outside of the familiar and confront the unknown, even when it makes us feel vulnerable. In doing so, we build resilience, we strengthen our sense of self-worth, and we create opportunities for growth that would never come if we remain stuck in the comfort zone. But embracing courage doesn't always mean taking huge leaps forward. Sometimes courage is about the small, everyday decisions that push us to grow. It's the choice to have a difficult conversation, to ask for help when we need it, or to pursue a new opportunity even when we're unsure of the outcome. Every time we act in alignment with our values and goals, even in the face of fear, we are strengthening our courage muscle. Over time, those small acts of bravery accumulate, and they begin to create a momentum that propels us forward. One of the most important things to remember about courage is that it is a practice. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's not something that we just have or don't have. Courage is a skill that we develop over time through repeated action. Every time we face discomfort, every time we move through fear and continue forward, we build that skill. And with each courageous step, we begin to rewrite the narrative in our minds, the narrative that tells us we are incapable, that tells us we are too small or too weak to handle the challenges ahead. Instead, we start to believe in our ability to handle discomfort, to grow in the face of uncertainty, and to trust that we can overcome whatever comes our way. It's easy to think that courage is about waiting for the right moment, waiting until we feel completely ready, or waiting until the fear goes away. But the truth is, courage is not about waiting for the perfect conditions. It's about moving forward in spite of the fear, doubt, and uncertainty. It's about showing up even when we don't have all the answers. It's about trusting ourselves enough to take the next step, even if we can't see the whole path ahead. The more we choose courage, the more we realize that we are capable of handling the discomfort that comes with it. We start to see that the discomfort is not a signal to stop, it's a signal that we're on the right path, that we're stretching ourselves, and that growth is happening. In the end, choosing courage over comfort is not just about the big, bold decisions. It's about making daily choices to move toward what matters most, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about refusing to let fear keep us stuck in a place that no longer serves us. And when we make those choices, we unlock the potential within us to create lives that are not just comfortable, but meaningful, purposeful, and full of growth. We become people who are willing to embrace discomfort, knowing that it's the key to becoming the people we're meant to be. When we're faced with difficult decisions or intense emotions, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the temporary feelings that rush in. Emotions like fear, sadness, or frustration can create a clouded lens through which we view the world. In these moments, we often feel the urge to act immediately, to resolve the discomfort as quickly as possible. But the challenge is this: acting on emotion alone without taking the time to step back and reflect on our values can lead to decisions that are driven by temporary states rather than the long-term vision for our lives. It's in these moments that we need to choose purpose over emotion. Our emotions can be intense, powerful, and convincing. They often feel like they are telling us exactly what to do in the moment, and it's tempting to follow those impulses. But emotions are short-lived. They rise quickly and can fall just as fast. What's important, however, is that our purpose, our values, and our long-term goals are steady. They are not swayed by momentary feelings. When we learn to listen to our purpose rather than letting our emotions steer us, we begin to make decisions that are in alignment with who we truly want to be, rather than decisions that are simply designed to bring immediate relief or comfort. Choosing purpose over emotion requires us to zoom out from the situation and gain perspective. It's about recognizing that emotions are temporary and do not have to dictate our actions. Purpose, on the other hand, is lasting. Our purpose is the thread that ties together our decisions, actions, and behaviors. It is the guiding compass that ensures we stay true to who we are and where we want to go, even in the midst of emotional turbulence. In times of uncertainty or overwhelm, choosing purpose helps us navigate through the fog of emotion and come back to a place of clarity. It reminds us that we are not our feelings, we are the sum of our values, our dreams, and the choices we make to move toward them. In practice, this might look like taking a moment to pause before reacting. It might mean allowing ourselves time to reflect on what we want in the long term, rather than giving in to the urgency of the moment. For example, when we experience fear, it may feel natural to avoid the situation that's causing the fear. But if we step back and connect with our purpose, we might realize that this discomfort is an opportunity for growth. Rather than running from it, we choose to lean into it because it aligns with our purpose of becoming more courageous and resilient. Similarly, when we feel frustration or anger, it can be tempting to lash out or shut down. But if we pause and check in with our values, we might realize that responding with kindness or patience aligns better with who we want to be and the relationships we want to nurture. Our emotions may scream for immediate action, but purpose gives us the power to make choices that serve our highest good in the long run. Purpose acts as an anchor in the storm of emotions. When emotions threaten to take over, our purpose gives us something to hold on to. It offers a sense of direction when everything else feels chaotic. It keeps us grounded in the knowledge that our lives are bigger than any one moment or any passing feeling. While our emotions are valid, they are not the final word in our decision-making process. The more we lean into our purpose, the more we realize that we can move through even the most intense emotional experiences with a sense of intentionality and self-trust. This doesn't mean that we deny our emotions or that we push them away. It simply means that we give ourselves permission to feel what we feel without letting those feelings take the reins of our lives. Emotions can be powerful teachers, but they are not the ultimate authority. When we choose to act in alignment with our purpose, we are choosing to be the author of our own story rather than letting fleeting feelings dictate the narrative. Living a life aligned with purpose requires discipline and mindfulness. It means taking a step back in the heat of the moment and asking ourselves, what is most important to me right now? How does this decision fit with who I want to be and where I want to go? This kind of reflection may not come naturally in every situation, and it may not always be easy, but the more we practice it, the more automatic it becomes. And when we make decisions based on our purpose, we move through life with a greater sense of clarity and confidence. We stop reacting to every emotional wave, and instead we start responding from a place of inner strength and alignment. In the end, choosing purpose over emotion is about creating a life that reflects who we are at our core. It's about making decisions that are grounded in our deepest values and long-term goals, rather than being swayed by the temporary feelings that arise in the moment. When we make that shift, we take back the power to shape our lives and to move forward with intention and purpose, no matter what emotions come our way. The temporary discomfort of emotions may feel intense, but it's nothing compared to the lasting satisfaction that comes from living a life that is in alignment with who we truly are. We live in a world that often glorifies instant gratification. We're used to having things at the touch of a button: food, information, entertainment, communication, all of it just a click away. In many ways, this convenience has made life easier, but it has also set up an unrealistic expectation that everything we want should come quickly and without much effort. And when it comes to our emotions and the challenges we face in life, this mindset can become a real obstacle. We often expect our feelings to resolve immediately, to feel better as soon as we confront them. But the truth is, real emotional growth, healing, and transformation don't happen in an instant. They take time, they take patience, and most importantly, they take a commitment to the long-term process, even when we don't feel like it in the moment. The journey of emotional resilience and growth is not a straight line. It's full of ups and downs, twists and turns, moments of progress followed by setbacks. And this is where the real challenge lies. When we're feeling overwhelmed, sad, or frustrated, it's tempting to want to escape those emotions as quickly as possible. We may try to push them away, distract ourselves, or numb the feelings in an attempt to feel better right now. But this approach doesn't lead to healing. In fact, it often prolongs the pain because we never give ourselves the time and space to truly process what we're going through. Real growth comes when we allow ourselves to sit with our emotions, to experience them fully, and to give ourselves permission to move through them at our own pace. Emotional growth, like any kind of growth, requires patience. It's a process, not an event. When we face difficult emotions, the first instinct might be to get rid of them quickly, to push through them and get back to normal. But emotional resilience doesn't come from bypassing or avoiding feelings. It comes from leaning into them, from giving ourselves time to feel them without judgment, and from trusting that over time we will move through them and come out the other side stronger. This is where the power of patience comes in. Patience isn't just about waiting for things to get better, it's about allowing things to unfold in their own time. It's about trusting the process, even when we don't see immediate results. When we choose patience, we acknowledge that the journey toward emotional healing and growth may take time, and that's okay. We don't need to rush the process. We don't need to have everything figured out in one moment. Instead, we allow ourselves to take the next step, even if it's a small one, and trust that with each step, we are moving toward something greater. There's also something incredibly powerful about giving ourselves permission to feel without rushing to fix it. We are often conditioned to believe that discomfort is something to be avoided at all costs. But in reality, discomfort is a necessary part of growth. It's only through experiencing the full range of our emotions, both the highs and the lows, that we develop emotional depth, resilience, and understanding. When we resist our emotions, we hold ourselves back from the opportunity to learn from them. But when we allow ourselves to feel without judgment, we open the door to healing, growth, and transformation. One of the most freeing things we can do is give ourselves permission to not have all the answers right away. It's okay to not feel okay. It's okay to not know what the next step is. We don't have to have everything figured out in the moment, and we certainly don't have to fix ourselves immediately. The process of growth and healing is not linear. It's full of twists and turns, highs and lows, and every part of that process is valid. Patience also allows us to build the kind of emotional strength that comes from enduring difficult emotions without rushing to escape them. When we stay present with our feelings, when we give them space to move through us, we develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and our emotional landscape. We learn how to sit with discomfort without letting it overwhelm us, and we gain confidence in our ability to navigate life's challenges. Over time, we build the resilience to face even the toughest emotions with grace, knowing that they will eventually pass and that we will emerge stronger on the other side. The key to patience is remembering that we don't need to be perfect and we don't need to have everything figured out in an instant. It's about trusting ourselves, trusting the process, and knowing that our emotions will evolve with time. It's okay to not have all the answers now. It's okay to feel messy and uncertain. What matters is that we are committed to showing up for ourselves, even in the difficult moments. And that commitment to patience and self-compassion is what will carry us through. In the end, emotional growth and healing are not about avoiding discomfort or rushing to fix things. They're about showing up for ourselves, even when it's hard, and giving ourselves the time and space to process, reflect, and move forward. By embracing the power of patience, we allow ourselves to experience the full depth of our emotions, to grow through them, and to trust that in time we will emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before.